So we just wanted to give you guys a quick update on how coronavirus is affecting us cruisers out here, because there's a lot in the news about how it affects everyone back at home and who has to stay at home, etc. But there's not a huge amount on what happens to people on sailing boats, so we thought we'd just give you a quick update on how we're being affected by this.
And our vlog is, as you'll appreciate, a little bit behind because it takes a while to edit those episodes. So yeah, we just thought we'd do a quick update.
Yeah, so we're in Curacao at the moment, which is one of the Dutch Antilles Islands just north of Venezuela. And how we got here is actually when everything started to escalate with COVID-19. We were sailing a 4-day sail from Grenada across the Caribbean Sea, so we didn't actually know what was all going on. And we arrived at Bonaire, and that's just when Trump had closed the borders in the US. So that was quite a big shock to us when we arrived.
That was the 12th of March.
Yeah, and we were planning on staying a little while in Bonaire because it was absolutely beautiful island, but we saw things escalating quite quickly and other borders following suit and shutting down. So we didn't stay there for long, and the reason for that was because Bonaire is a marine reserve, and so the whole island is protected. So there was no anchorage for us, so we were on a mooring, which cost us per day, and also the mooring wasn't sheltered from the winds at all if any sort of storm came through. So we knew that Curacao, which was only about 35 miles to the west, was a much safer place for us to be if we were going to get stuck long term. And we knew we had to move pretty quickly as everything was shutting down around us.
Bonaire's border actually closed while we were in Bonaire, and so it was a little bit nerve-wracking clearing out of Bonaire to come to Curacao, because we had information that Curacao was still open, but we weren't sure what would happen if we got to Curacao and it was closed, and we couldn't go back to Bonaire because they'd closed. So it was a little bit nerve-wracking, but yeah, we made it into Curacao.
And as it stands, we made it into Curacao just in time. We parallel sailed with some friends of ours, and we were the last boats that they let in here without quarantining. So at the moment we are in a nice safe anchorage in Curacao. We are not under quarantine, so we can leave the boat as we please. And yeah, we're sort of
we've got up to 3 months that we can stay here in Curacao on the visas that we've got.
90 days here. A few boats have arrived since we arrived. They're not being turned away, but they're not allowed to leave their boats, so they've got to keep their Q flags up, which is a yellow flag on their starboard spreader, and they're not allowed to leave their boats. So we were really, really lucky in terms of timing. But how this sort of affects us more in the short to medium term is that everywhere we were going to be going from here on our way home is now closed. So our original plan was to leave Curacao to go to Colombia for a week, then onward to the San Blas Islands, then to Colon, which is the Caribbean entrance to the Panama Canal, where we would transit the Panama Canal with Ash's mum, and carry on from there to the Galapagos Islands, and that was going to be our jumping spot to cross the Pacific to the French Polynesia, to the Marquesas. All of those places are now closed for us.
Yeah, so with Panama you can still go through the canal, but only if you show up at the entrance to the canal with all of the people that you need on board. And the minimum for going through is 5 people on board. You need 1 person to drive the boat, and you need 4 people to handle the lines. So for us that's not an option. We would have to actually clear into Panama to pick up crew. So to clear into Panama at the moment you would have to sit in quarantine at anchor for 14 days. But the big problem, as Danny said, is that the Pacific is all closed. Galapagos are closed, French Poly is closed, the Cook Islands are closed, Tonga is closed, I think. So there's really, it would really be a straight sail from Panama back to New Zealand, which we're not interested in doing. What's the point of going for a Pacific cruise if you can't stop anywhere? So we're having to reevaluate our plans. There is the hurricane season here in the Caribbean, which will start sort of at the end of next month, end of April. And at that point the cruising in the Caribbean is not so good because the weather becomes quite unsettled. it might be, if things don't change in the next month or so, it might be that we have to spend the hurricane season here in the Caribbean. And Curacao is a safe place to do that. We could pull the boat out of the water here. We'd have to work out what we do about our 3-month visa here. We'd probably have to try and go somewhere else. We might try and get into Central or South America if it's possible. We might just fly back to New Zealand, but that's a last resort. We don't really want to do that. Yeah, and then we might have to look at doing the Pacific Crossing next season, which sort of January, February is when that season would open.
We are actually quite lucky though, because just a couple of weeks ago we were in Martinique with a whole lot of other sailors.
Which you will have seen on the latest blog episode, coming soon.
And they all went north, and we went south and then west. And so at the moment they are quarantined and stuck up in Guadeloupe. Yeah. And they're in the hurricane belt, so it's not a great place to be when you can't leave.
If things don't change, yeah.
Yeah, so we're very lucky that we're out of the hurricane belt, because it does leave us with quite a few options. We don't have to move Bacchus, so we can stay in the anchorage for, like we said, 90 days, or we can actually haul her out onto the hard into a yard, and then depending on if anyone opens their borders, we can
go somewhere else.
We can leave once our 90 days are up.
Yeah.
So we have got quite a few options available to us because we are in a safe zone.
Look, it's an enforced extension of our trip at this stage, so we're trying to look at the silver lining. We get to maybe spend some more time in what is quite a nice part of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, as frustrating as it is, and as, you know, as concerning as it is as we look at all the news coming in from overseas. I mean, Danny and I are healthy, and I don't think there's very many cases here in Curacao at all, so I don't think either of us are concerned about catching the virus ourselves. But obviously we've got lots of friends still back in London and in different cities around the world, and it's looking pretty tough for them, so we're thinking about you.
Yeah. And we are still sailing Bacchus home. We just might not get there as soon as we thought we would, and it might be a 2021 arrival instead of a 2020 arrival.
Yeah.
But
but yeah, that's our little update.
It's coronavirus for cruises.
Yeah, new vlog episode coming very soon. Danny now has lots and lots of time to work on the editing while we sit here at anchor.
There's another little silver lining.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're thinking about you all. Stay safe out there, look after each other.
Wash your hands, don't hoard toilet paper, all that stuff.
Get those puzzles done.
Ciao.